So I created a game system that's a combination of these two game systems here. You have your sprint component, which is extremely basic. You sprint, stop sprint, etc. This is free. And then you have your hand-to-hand combat component, which allows you to do a hand-to-hand combo with 8 animations. It has locomotion with 8 directional movement and evasion as well. So I made a combination of these two things put together. And today I'm going to show you how to take that and integrate it into your own project for your own character. So let's get started. So first things first, this is what you're looking at here. If we press play, we'll see our character. Right over here, you'll see our stamina bar, and you can walk, you can sprint, and as you sprint, you'll see that as your stamina drains, your sprint speed will start to gradually slow down. And the more stamina you use, the slower your character will sprint until you eventually end up doing a speed walk. And that's where we are. So we have stamina drain, stamina recovery, and then as far as the hand-to-hand combat, you can guard, you can also move around, like you can trot while you're guarding. You have your 8 directional movement. So everything is blended in nicely. And then you have your punches, which drain stamina. You have your evasion, which also drains stamina. And as you see, as your stamina gets lower, your punches get slower as well. And this rule also applies to evasion. But once your stamina goes back up, you'll start to pick up speed until you lose stamina again, and then you'll be slow again. And the reason why I built it like this is because where is the challenge in games that have hand-to-hand combat anymore? Everything is so easy and not as realistic. So the next thing we're going to do is teach you how to integrate this directly with your project into your own character. So let's get into it. Now when you import this pack into your project, it'll end up in a folder like this that says UAF_ advanced hand-to-hand. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up your character blueprint. So to do that, you go to third person or whatever folder your character is in. Blueprints, if you're using a third person template, and open up BP third person character. And then you could just dock that right there. The next thing you have to do is create 2 variables. And they're both going to be type Boolean. So the first one is going to be moving, and the second one is going to be blocking. Now over here on your movement input, you want to bring this down and make a little bit of space. Open that up. And after the move function is executed, you want to set moving to true. So we'll do that. And then on completed, you want to set moving to false. And you can close that up. Compile and save. The next thing you want to do is add our components. So we'll go right here to the add button in the components section. Click the add button and type in AC_, and you'll see our 3 components here that we have to add. So the first one we'll do is vitals, and then we'll do AC_ again, and we'll add in the hand-to-hand combat, and then we'll do it one more time and add in the player movement, and we'll compile and save. Now we have to open up our components and our UI and replace some references. So we'll go to the content drawer, we'll go to our asset folder, and we can start with the UI. Go to UI, widgets, player vitals. We'll go right to the graph, and we'll go to the event graph, and we're going to delete these 2 things here. And from here, we're going to go cast third person character. And then we'll connect the execution pin from the event construct to the cast, and then promote this to a variable. And now we'll have our player reference. Make that a little bit neat. Go to the bind stamina bar, and we're going to take all this and delete it. Get our player reference. Go ahead and delete this one. And then we'll get our vitals all the way down to the bottom. And from our vitals, we'll get our current stamina and connect the current stamina to the top. And then from vitals again, we'll get our max stamina and connect the max stamina to the bottom. So compile and save, and we're done with this part. So we can close that up. Next, we'll replace some references in the component. So we'll go back to our content drawer. We'll go to our asset folder and go under components. First thing we'll do is open up the vitals. So now from here, we could just go right here, grab this stuff right here, and delete it. And same thing we did in the UI. Cast the third person character, connect the then 0 to the cast, bring that down to make it neater. And then we could promote this to a variable. And again, player ref. And now to find the references that we need to replace, all we have to do is go to the original player reference, click on that, right click, find references, and we'll do by name. And it looks like this is the only place where we have the player reference. So we could go ahead and compile, save. Well, let's recategorize this to blueprint references, and then we'll take this one and delete it. And now we can compile and save and close that blueprint. Next thing we have to do is go to the player movement, and same thing as before. We'll take this and delete it, cast to third person character once again, then connect the then zero to the cast, promote this to a variable, player ref, and then we'll go down to the references category, blueprint references, right click, find references by name. And what this does is basically it pulls up all the references in the actual blueprint. So we'll see we have one basically in every single function in this component. So we'll go one by one to check stamina. We'll start with that. And this is the first one we have to replace. So we'll grab these three things and delete them. We'll get our player ref. And now we're going to get our AC vitals, or we'll get our vitals. Easiest trick is to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And now we'll convert this to a validated get. Bring that down and connect it. And now we want to get our current stamina, right? We take current stamina and connect it right here. And for valid, we'll connect that to the branch. So we could do this to make it neater. And that's the first reference replaced. So now we'll go to start sprint, and we have to get the player ref with the moving variable, and then we just have to connect that to the moving component. So we'll delete these two right here. We'll get our player ref, and then we'll get moving, and then we could connect moving to the condition. Bring this up a bit, connect player ref to the moving component. And now we go to stop sprint, and we take this player ref, delete it, grab our new player reference, and then connect it. So then we go to stamina drain. So over here, we're going to grab current stamina, max stamina, the vitals component, and the player reference, and delete that. We'll get our player ref. From the player ref, we're going to get our vitals once again, all the way down at the bottom. Convert that to a validated get, connect that, and then we're going to connect the is valid to set current stamina. We're going to get our current stamina, and we're going to connect the current stamina to the top, and then we're going to get our max stamina, and then we're going to connect the max stamina to the clamp float. Next thing we'll do is go down to stamina recovery, right? So same thing over here. Grab all this, delete it, player ref, get that. Now we're going to get the vitals again. Down to the bottom, we got vitals, convert that to a validated get. Connect that, and then connect this to the set current stamina. So we're going to get current stamina once again and connect that to the top. And then we're going to get our max stamina, right? We're going to connect our max stamina right here. Boom. All right. And then we'll go to set speed, and now we just delete this, right? So we get our player reference, convert that to a validated get. Go right here, connect that, and then connect that to the valid. And then we'll get our vitals again, and then we'll connect our vitals to the current stamina, max stamina here, and then we'll connect it again to the current stamina so that we don't have to redo all of this right here. Very good. So now we compile. We got an error. So we got some errors here, and see me being a big dummy. So I forgot to connect these. So we could just connect that, and then we'll connect the vitals to the target here, and that actually should do the trick. All right, so we have our player movement done. Let's close that, and we'll open up our hand-to-hand combat component and rinse and repeat. Same exact thing. So we'll go to the begin play right here, delete these two, and then we'll do cast third person character, connect that to the then zero, and then promote this to a variable and call that player ref. And then same thing, just find the references by name, and you'll have all your references here. So this is on the event graph. So These are for the strike speed and the evade speed. So we could just delete this and delete these two right here. And we'll get our player reference and we'll get our vitals and bring this up here and connect that. And then we'll get our player movement and connect that to strike speed. So, right? And then for our stamina recovery over here, we want to get that from vitals. And that's not going to work, so we could just delete that little thing right there. And then from player vitals, we could just drag and do stamina recovery. Or from player movement, you could drag and do stamina recovery. My bad. So for player movement, stamina recovery, I will put this on the execution like so. And then you can add a reroute if you want to make it a little bit neater, right? And you could also go like this and hit Q, and that's nice and straight. All right. So down here, same thing again. If you want to, you can actually go up here and copy all that with Control C, and you could just delete this. Then you could just click here, Control V, so that you don't have to type everything in again. So you connect that, and for the player movement, you go ahead and connect that. All right. So now we have our player reference and all of our functions. So we'll go to start hand-to-hand combat, and this is where we're gonna get blocking. So delete this, player reference, and then from player reference you get blocking, and now you connect blocking to the condition, and then over here is where you get the mesh. So you'll get your player reference again, and then we're gonna get mesh, right? And then you just connect the mesh to the skeleton mesh, because if you don't have this, the animation won't play. And quick tip, if you want to put animations inside functions like an animation montage, the way I did it was, if you look here, I have some custom events set up with these inputs from over here for play montage, and then extra stuff there. But just to play the animation, play montage on a custom event, and then call the custom event inside the function. All right, cool. Next we'll go to evade back, and same thing here, delete that. We'll get our player reference, and then we'll get blocking and connect that like so. And then from here, we'll get the mesh and connect the mesh like so. And then we'll go to our evade left and do the same thing. So delete that, player ref, get blocking, connect that to the condition, and then we'll get the mesh once again. And we're gonna do that again for the last one. So on evade right, we'll get that deleted, player reference, blocking, right? Connect that to the condition, and then we'll get our mesh for the last time. Connect that to the mesh. Then we could reclassify this for blueprint references. Could compile, save, delete this, compile, save again, just for good measure. And now we could close that out. And then one thing I forgot is in the player movement, forgot to reclassify this just to keep everything neat, organized. And once you're able to delete that like that, that's how you know that you are able to replace all the references. Because if not, you'll get a pop-up with an error message. So the next thing we have to do is we have to modify the animation blueprint, and then the last part will be adding the input actions, right? But we're almost done. So we'll go to third person character, and we'll pull up the animation blueprint, right? So let's just open this up. Now there's some quick modifications you have to do here. So we'll go right here on the event graph in the animation blueprint, and we'll just take these two things and delete them. And we'll cast to the third person character. And what do you know it? We're going to make another player reference. So player ref, right? And then we'll connect this to here. We'll go down here to this area, and we'll delete this. We'll get our player ref, and we'll convert that to a validated get. Connect that, and then connect the valid to the sequence. And then we just have to replace one more over here, and we just replace that with the player ref, right? Now we add another pin on the sequence here, and down here we'll do player ref, and we'll get blocking, and then we'll promote blocking to a variable. And then from this execution pin, the then 3 on the sequence, we'll connect that to blocking, right? And that's so that we have this variable set inside the animation blueprint so that we could use it. Now we have to make some modifications to the animation graph, right? This is where the magic happens. So we go to the animation graph and delete this shit, connect that here, and we'll go right into the locomotion, right? Now, before we start messing around with this, we just have to do one more thing. We have to actually retarget all of the animations, and we're gonna do this quickly, right? So we'll just go here. Let's go to characters, and we'll get add a new folder in characters, and we'll call this hand-to-hand anims, right? And we'll open that bad boy up, or we don't really have to open it up. So we'll go over here to the asset folder, go to animations, and we could start retargeting all of these animations, right? So the first thing we need to retarget is the blocking, right? Because if you go in here, right, and let's move this over, what we would do is we'll do blend by bool, and basically the false pulse will be your regular idle pulse. This is when you're not blocking, because the boolean is going to be blocking, right? When you're not blocking, it's going to be the regular idle, but you want the blocking animation when you are blocking. So if we do that, skeletons are not compatible. So an easy way to fix that is just to go here and just replace the skeletons. So we'll just go here and we'll go not to the one hand-to-hand combat mannequin. We'll go down here to the one that's in game characters mannequin meshes. So we'll replace that skeleton. And now after we replace the skeleton, we'll be able to add this to the animation sequence, right? So now it'll actually connect and it'll work for our character or whatever your character is. If your character is not rigged with the UE5 skeleton, then you'll just have to like retarget it. And to do that, you'll just go here and you right click and then just hit retarget animations, and then you'll choose whatever skeleton you want to retarget to, and you'll just export it from there. So you'll just like pick an animation, and then you'll do export animations, choose a folder, and then hit export, right? Easy peasy. But we're not going to retarget. We're just going to replace the skeleton. So we'll go back here. We'll go into the evade folder, and we'll just grab from here and we'll shift, and we will replace the skeleton. And we'll just keep doing this for all of them. Hand-to-hand combo. We'll go to the anim sequence, do that. Replace skeleton. Same thing for the montage. Replace skeleton. And now let's go back to the locomotion. We'll go to trot, shift, replace skeleton, and walk, shift to grab all of it, replace this skeleton. And then for hand-to-hand idle, we'll replace the skeleton as well. And then we can also do the same thing for the blend space, right? Because we're going to need to do that next. So from here, we can compile. We can save these 40 unsaved items before UE crashes. And then now the next thing we'll do is go to our walk run, right? So we're just going to pull this out just a little bit, maybe a lot of bit. From here, we'll do blend by bool. Once again, we'll drag this down to be the false pose. And again, the condition is going to be blocking. And for the true pose, we'll just open up the drawer again, and it's going to be this BS hand-to-hand walk, right? Drag that in, connect that low, copy, paste, and then connect these two together. All right. Now we could compile and save this. And the next thing we have to do, and the last thing we have to do, it should be the last thing, is create our input actions, right? So we'll open up the content drawer. We'll go to content, input, actions. First thing we'll do is IA sprint, and then we'll duplicate that. And the next one will be IA block, and we'll duplicate that. And we'll do IA punch, and we'll duplicate that again. We'll do IA evade back, and then we'll duplicate that again and do IA evade left. We'll duplicate that once more, and this will be IA evade right. And then we can save all those. We'll go to the content. We'll go back to input folder and open up this IMC default. Go under mappings, and we'll start adding our mappings. So the first one we'll do is block. For blocking, I like to do the left mouse button. We'll add another mapping but before we add our mappings, there's just one thing we have to do so that you don't cause any confusion within yourself. So we'll go to the asset folder, we'll go to demo, and we'll go to input, we'll go to actions, and we'll highlight all of these and just delete them, right? Because we're not using that character and we don't want that stuff to spawn in. And then we'll go over here to content, right click, update redirector references. Now from here, we can add our block, add another mapping, we'll have our punch, add another mapping, we add our sprint, we'll do another mapping, evade back, evade left, evade right. And we can start adding bindings to these. So we'll open up the drop down. You can click on this, and I like to do left mouse for the block. Click on that, we'll do right mouse for the punch. For the sprint, we'll do left shift. For the evade back, we'll do Z. For the evade left, we'll do Q. And for the evade right, we'll do E. So now that we have all our bindings, it's time to add them to our character blueprint. And don't worry about this. So let's go here and go to third person, blueprints, third person character. And the first thing we'll do is add our IA sprint, and we'll grab our player movement component and we'll do start sprint, and that will be from triggered. If you do it from start, it will not work the way you want it to. So if you do it from triggered, that's how you'll be able to slow down speeds in real time. If you do it from started, when you drain your stamina, the speed will slow down only if you release the sprint button and press it again. So you want to put this on triggered. And from the player movement component again, you want to get stop sprint and connect that to completed. And then you could compile and save. And if you want to, you could test this out. Don't worry about this error. This is just for the stuff in the asset folder, and you can honestly delete that at this point. So hit play in editor. Oh wait, one last thing. To show you how it actually worked, I had the game switch to hand game mode. You don't have to worry about this. That was just a me problem. So from here, you hit play, and now stamina bar is there. Should be able to walk, and we're not walking. Why are we not walking? Getting an error from the movement component. And the reason we're getting an error from the movement component is because I forgot to connect this here. So again, me problem. Don't worry about it. You probably caught it when I didn't. So compile and save. If you're getting that same error, that's the reason why. So from here, we should be able... Got one last thing that's not saved. So from here, we should be able to walk. Oh, one last thing before you sprint, right? And again, this is not something you have to go back and fix. This is just a me problem. You can go down to the character movement component in your character blueprint, click on the character movement component, go to search, and do the max walk, and then we'll set this to 250, right? So now that we have that done, when you hit play, you should be able to walk normally, and then when you hit sprint, you'll start sprinting, and as you see, as you sprint, the stamina will drain, and as the stamina drains, the character will get slower, and when the stamina is almost out, the character will go to a speed walk type deal, if you just look at it now, right? So this is already working. The sprint is already integrated. So let's add the rest of the input actions so that we can finally finish this up. So the next thing we're going to do is add blocking. So we'll do IA block, and from started, we're going to set blocking to true, and on completed, we're going to set blocking to false. And then next we'll do the hand-to-hand combat. So we'll do IA punch for the hand-to-hand combo, and then you'll open that up. You'll get our advanced hand-to-hand component. From that, you'll get start hand-to-hand combo, and then connect that to started. And now we just need our evade. So IA evade back, open that up. Down here, we'll do IA evade left, open that up. And down here, we'll do IA evade right and open that up, right? So now we just need our hand-to-hand component again. So from here, we'll get evade back, and that will go off as started. Get our component again, and evade left, and again from started. And then we'll get our component again, and evade right, and connect that to started, right? And just like that, I'm pretty sure we're done. So we'll go here, we'll press play. Now we can block, we can throw punches, and these punches do drain stamina. We can evade, which also drains stamina. Got the evade left, right, evade back. And now we can sprint, but the sprint speed is still based on how much stamina you have. So now we're all done. We have our directional movement. And there's one last thing that we have to do is we have to fix this camera, right? Because you won't be able to experience the 8-way directional movement like this. So to do that is really simple. Just go to your character blueprint, hit that right there, and then we'll just type in rotes into ROT, and then we'll just flip flop these two checkboxes right here, compile, save, and now we have our directional movement, right? We can go in all 8 directions. All right, so we're all done here. If this helped you, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell for more videos, and I will see you in the next video.